CDM Electronics presents training on Times Microwave Products, Part 2 of 4.
It's non-kinking. If you look at traditional cables, like a corrugated cable, great cable for good low loss or rugged cable, but you have to be so careful when you're handling the thing that you don't overbend it and you kink that corrugated shield on the outside. The way we've come up with the cable with the connector system makes the connectors very easy to attach. All of these things, the fact that it's flexible, doesn't kink, connectors go on easy, very easy installation. We designed it so that the loss would be very comparable to a corrugated cable. That's very, very important because we can have the most flexible, easy to install cable in the world, but if the loss is too high, customers are going to say, well, big deal, I get this thing installed, my loss is too high, I got to use a bigger cable. Because if the losses are high, you have to go up to bigger cables. People don't like to do that. The loss is also a lot lower than comparable RG cables too. So I'll get into that. And then we used to compare it a lot to this product called Belden 9913, which is an air dielectric cable. I don't think a lot of people use Belden 9913 anymore. If you guys, standard product features basically, you got your center conductor, which is either solid copper, it's going to be copper covered aluminum. When you get into those intermediate sizes like LMR 400 and 600, the reason we use copper covered aluminum on those sizes is that you don't need a lot of copper. The signal's only traveling on the outside of the center conductor. So what do? We get rid of all of the copper inside. On the intermediate sizes, we put aluminum in there because it's less expensive. And then when you get up into the bigger sizes like an LMR 900, we just use a copper tube because it's self-supporting. So we get rid of as much cost, as much weight as possible. The insulation on the cables is low-loss closed cell foam polyethylene, and we say it's insulation or it's the dielectric material. But the reason that we foam it is to make it more like air. And when we say we want to make the dielectric material more like air, what we really want to do is make the signal travel faster, because the highest rate of speed of a signal, an RF signal, would be actually in a vacuum or in air. And as soon as you introduce a solid material like a polyethylene, you slow it down quite a bit. And when you slow the signal down, what you're doing is increasing the loss, you're increasing the attenuation. So the idea is, hey, let's make the insulation more like air, okay? But you got to be careful when you do that, because if you make it too much of a foam with too much air, it's too soft and you can't handle it, okay? So you have this balancing act. You want good low loss, but it still has to be mechanically stable. So that's the point we try to find. Get the loss down as much as we can and still have a mechanically stable cable. The shield on the cable is this aluminum tape that's bonded to dielectric. You kind of see that in the picture there. And then there's a tin copper braid over the top of that. The aluminum tape really does most of the shielding for you when you get up into these RF frequencies. So you could really use the cable without the braid, but you need the braid for two things. One is to attach the connector, because it could be really hard to attach the connector to the foil and have it stay on there and be robust. Second thing is you have to ground these things at some point in the system. So you can't really ground that aluminum tape too effectively. The braid is a lot better way to do that. So we say you get better than 90 dB of isolation shielding on there. With old style RG cables, you got about 40 to 60 dB of isolation. So 90 is very, very good. The jacket, the standard jacket on the regular cable is just a UV sunlight resistant black. And under the picture it says polyethylene. So, but 40 years of life. Okay. And we use the same polyethylene everybody else uses. We don't make these compounds, we buy them. So everybody's using the same stuff. But polyethylene is the best thing that you could use outdoors, because the only thing that's in that jacket is polyethylene and carbon black. Gives you good ultraviolet and sunlight resistance. So, the cable's going to outlast whatever it's attached to, basically. So we make an LMR, like I said, in Connecticut now for a long, long time. Works with all radios, RF radios and antenna systems up to 5.8 gigahertz plus. So 5.8 gigahertz is the highest of what we call the unlicensed bands. There's a whole bunch of different unlicensed frequency bands that are used for wireless internet and different applications. 900 megahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, and 5.8. So normally when you have customers that are going to be using LMR cable, it's not going to be used at any higher than 5.8. But if you get special applications where they want to use it higher than that, you can use LMR cable at higher frequencies. But the caveat there is you've got to be very careful about connector selection and how they're put on. So we don't recommend our distributors or customers building a cable assembly that's going to be used higher than 5.8. If they have an application for that, the best thing to do is come to us, let us pick out the connector, we'll build the assemblies, we'll test them up at the higher frequencies, 10 or 12 gigahertz, wherever they're at. But I would say 98% of everything that you guys have probably ever sold or been asked to quote on is going to be less than that. Anyway, so that was the standard cable. The DB cable is the one that's got the waterproofing material in there. You probably built, DB assemblies, here at CDM. So it's got the sticky goop on there that, blocks the braid so that if the jacket's ever cut, water doesn't move through the braid. And all the LMR cables have a 5-year warranty, but the DB cables have a 10-year warranty. Okay. Then the Ultraflex cables are the ones with that stranded center conductor and that rubbery kind of a jacket. Have you guys built any TCOM assemblies? Do you know?
Yeah.
You have, okay. Because somebody was asking, one of our inside salespeople said, CDM built? Maybe they just need a little bit more flexibility than a standard LMR cable. So the four things we try to get people to remember on the Ultraflex cable is, number one, you really can't use the easy push-on connectors because the center conductor is stranded, and when you try to push it into the contact, the strands try to open up, okay? So you pretty much have to use a solder-on connector. They're not for repeated bending because you can take anything, and if you bend it back and forth enough times, you're going to break it, and that's what's going to happen with Ultraflex. First thing you're going to do is you're going to break the foil, and eventually you'll break the center conductor. The center conductor, because it's not solid, it's stranded, the loss is about 15% higher. Most people who are using Ultraflex cable, they're not using it for long runs, so that's not a big deal. Equipment cabinet or in a building. So you can use these in applications in buildings where you got a vertical building riser or access shaft or service shaft. And they're not completely fireproof cables. But what will happen is, if there's a fire and the cable's in the fire, the cable basically self-extinguish. It'll just char itself. So as soon as the cable kind of burns away from the fire, it'll just stop burning. It won't keep on propagating the fire. So if you had a cable like that installed somewhere and there was a localized fire, the cable's not going to transmit the fire all over the building or all over the equipment enclosure. Now these cables, they look a lot like the regular LMR cable. The center conductor is a little smaller. Being that the center conductor is a little bit smaller, you can't use the regular LMR connectors on there. You have to use the LMR connectors that have the contacts that are sized for that center conductor, which is a little bit smaller. So with the easy connectors, you always have to make sure, and if you look in the catalog, there's a section for the plenum. You have to make sure you pick out the plenum connectors. If you're using the solder-on connectors, you got a little bit of wiggle room there because you're going to be filling that solder cup, so you're going to get good contact. But if you pushed on one of the regular easy LMR connectors onto a plenum cable, the center conductor is just going to be flopping around in that contact. You're not going to get good. You're going to get intermittent contact. It may work, occasionally, but it's not going to work constantly or like the way it should. Okay. So that's the picture of the cable there. So we go into a little digression here on the LMR plenum cable because it's a lot of times the building owner. If somebody wants to come in and put in a wireless system and they need to put in a wireless system, the guy who owns the building may just say to them, well, the National Electrical Code or my local code doesn't say that you need to use plenum cable, but I'm saying I want you to use plenum cable because I don't want my building burning down. So they can dictate to you a lot of times. A lot of the cost in the LMR cable is in that tin copper braid that's over the foil, okay? And when copper started going up several years ago, now it's way up there again, but we came out with the aluminum braided product. So we just took out the tin copper braid, we put the aluminum braid in there, and aluminum is much less expensive, and it's got a lower density than copper. So it brought the cost down about 15%. So, and we still offer that product now. It's basically the same as the product that's got the tin copper braid. but it's about, we were trying not to sell it on a, lower cost thing, but that's the bottom line. I mean, it's cheaper, but it's about 30% lighter, so it's a little easier to handle for people too. And all the standard accessories work with it, the ground kits, the tools. We have it in those 5 sizes, 195, 200, 240, 400, 600. We never came out with like the DB version of it, because we didn't know where it was going. And I got to say, even with copper being a lot more expensive now, being around $4 a pound, we really haven't seen like a lot more interest in the LMR light, like people coming over to it. Oh, I'll buy that instead of like the regular LMR cable. But it's something that we have, something we offer.
For more information about CDM Electronics products and services, email our sales department at sales@cdmelectronics.com or call toll-free 877-386-8200.